You ever been to one of those discount stores where you've got to bring your own bags and pay a quarter for the cart? You know the kind. Super cheap on prices, wildly popular, but you got to plan before you go there. Well, yesterday we went to one of these stores, and if you forget the bags or the quarter, it gets interesting fast. And so yesterday we didn't bring our bags. And I walked through and we grabbed everything that we needed and that kind of stuff. And then we get up there to the end and I realize, okay, either we're going to buy bags or we're going to try to figure out how we put all this into our car and then carry it into our house in our arms. And, it's kind of ridiculous if you think about carrying all that stuff in your hands, in your arms, eggs in one hand, milk in the other, got a box of cereal here, and then, maybe something tucked up underneath my chin because, I always imagine the other things starting to happen. The phone starts to ring, my keys start to slip, and next thing you know, I've got this big mess where if I just buy the bags, I'm not holding everything as it starts to fall. And so I buy the bags. And that's how a lot of us live. Our hands are full with so many things, and we just won't buy the bags. We're juggling what we were never meant to carry, and we just won't let it go. And that's where we pick it up here in episode 3 called Release. Because you can't run free when your hands are full. You can't move forward when you're still gripping what's behind you. Hebrews 12 and 1 says it like this. It says, let us throw off everything that hinders us and the sin that so easily entangles us. And then it says, let us run with perseverance the race that's marked out for us. Like what this picture is it's a picture of a runner who's basically got a cloak on. Sometimes you see this like in the Olympics and stuff where people will have a warm-up suit on and then they take it off. But whenever they take it off, man, they throw that off because they don't want any of that other weight on them as they're trying to run this race that they're trying to win. And that's what Hebrews is telling us there, is that you were never meant to live heavy. You were meant to live free. And so you got to cast all that off. You got to release that stuff off of you. There's a story that paints this just so perfectly in Scripture, and there's a man named Bartimaeus, and he sat on the side of the road outside Jericho, a city, and he was blind, and he couldn't see anything. And in that time, if you were blind, you weren't just blind. That meant that you were not just in darkness, but it meant that you had poverty, that you had shame, that you had dependence. It was associated with sin. And so where Bart sat, he was begging for coins from people who barely didn't notice him. Think about your homeless folks at the stoplights that we just drive by. Well, one day he hears that Jesus is passing by, and he starts yelling out. He says, hey, Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me. And so the crowd tries to shut him up. They're like, man, stop trying to make a scene. But this only encourages him. He just only yells louder. And sometimes, that is what faith sounds like. It's louder than the pressure to stay quiet. If you really want something to change, you really can't care if it upsets the crowd. Because here's the thing about the crowd. The crowd is always a faceless mass. They will cheer you one moment and they will cancel you the next. And after ghosting you as you're working through this long process that's taking everything out of you, then they'll just clap for your highlight reel. But see, I don't think you're the crowd. I don't think you're the mass. You're a name. And you're a story. And you're a one-of-one creation. And see, if Bartimaeus, if he cared about fitting in with everybody else, he would have stayed blind. He would have shut up, and he would have just done what they said. But see, faith doesn't wait for permission. It moves, even when it makes people uncomfortable. See, because quiet victims, they rarely change the world. But the ones who do, they cry out. They risk the awkward moment. They release what they've been holding, and they step out of line, and they say, hey, over here. I'm right here. And that's when everything changes. See, in Mark 10:50, it says, throwing aside his cloak, he jumped to his feet and came to Jesus. It's the same kind of idea. The same as that runner. He just throws it aside. Before Jesus ever healed him, he released everything that defined him. That cloak was more about fabric than fabric. It was concealment. It was his identity. It was his security. It was what kept him warm. It was what hid him when people were throwing rocks. It was a way of surviving. But when Jesus called to him, Bart didn't fold it neatly or drag it behind him just in case. He just let it go. And the word used there isn't about aggression. It's about separation. It means to loosen your hold, to let something fall from your grasp. There's a power in the picture that it's not force. It's just a throw. It's a freedom, I guess you would say, of release. Because letting go isn't weakness, it's trust. Like when you release something, it's saying, I don't have to control the outcome to believe it's going to be okay. And see, sometimes we hold on to our problems believing that it's just not going to be okay if we don't. And maybe that's why Jesus didn't hand Bartimaeus new sight until he let go of his old safety. And because God won't fill hands that refuse to open, like he had to release that. And so, like, let's talk about you. Like, let's name the weight in your life. Maybe it's obvious, you know? Maybe it's addiction. Maybe it's a toxic relationship. Maybe it's the pressure to be perfect. Maybe it's a little bit more sneaky and subversive. Maybe it's quiet fear of being forgotten, or the need to control outcomes, or the story you keep telling yourself about why you're just never enough. Either way, all of that's slowing you down. Here's the truth. The miracle doesn't wait for you to fix everything. It waits for you to release everything you're holding so the miracle can come. See, release is choosing to unclench your fists of that pain that trained you to hold on to something. It's saying, I'm done letting what hurt me have strength. Here, I've got a great example of this. I want you to try it at home, okay? So go get a rock, any size rock, and hold it until your knuckles ache. Now, you're going to feel that. That's going to feel like what your soul feels like whenever you grip onto a burden too long. It won't matter how big or how small the rock is. It won't matter if you're holding it with two hands. It won't matter if you're holding it with one hand. It doesn't matter if you can't hold it with one hand. It doesn't matter if it's small enough that you can hold it with one hand. See, what I'm trying to tell you is whatever you're holding on to, whether it's big or small, you've got to release that, because eventually that arm gets tired. Eventually, you ache, you fatigue out, and then that thing you're holding on to is going to drop anyway. So if you control the drop, just let it hit the ground. And as it falls, name what you're releasing. Just say it out loud. You know, I release my need to control. I release my fear of failing. I release what I cannot carry anymore. That's the sound of a rock hitting the ground. But to you, it's the sound of freedom. That's the sound of the starting gun of the race that's about to begin. So, hey, I just want you to take a second, dial in, and focus on what I'm about to say. I don't know what you're gripping, but you do. That thing that hits you in your chest whenever I said you need to release it, that's the one. You can feel it in your shoulders, can't you? Like the tension, the weight, the thing that's lived rent-free in your hands for way too long. And you keep saying, whenever it settles down, I'll let go. But here's the truth, okay? It won't ever settle down until you do let go. You have to release. See, release doesn't wait for peace. It creates it. The miracle doesn't show up after the drop. The miracle is the drop. So right now, before this moment goes away, before you miss it, take a deep breath. Unclench your fist. And say it out loud right where you are. I release what I was never meant to carry. You don't have to fix it right now. You don't have to figure it out all right now. You just have to let go. Every time you release, you make room for hope. And when hope has room, it grows. And when it grows, it spreads. And when it spreads, it changes the world. All of this has purpose. You can't change the world if you're tied up in yours. So this week, don't wait. Drop the rock. Forgive the name. Close the tab. Send the text. Take a nap. Whatever you need to do, whatever your release looks like, do it today. Release isn't a one-time act. You'll want to pick it up again tomorrow and the next day and the next day. That's normal. But every time you drop it, you win. Every time you drop it, you remind yourself, I am not bound by this anymore. I may be affected by this thing, but I'm not bound by it anymore. So this week, clear the jam, turn aside, release the weight. Drop that rock that you've been carrying, fear, anger, worry, anxiety, depression, and watch what comes rushing into that space that used to occupy all that. Hope. That's where hope breathes again. Hey, I just want to tell you about some great things that are happening and some great ways that you can get plugged in with what we're doing here at Hope Like a Virus. So first of all, the one-stop shop for everything Hope Like a Virus is hlav.org. That's where you can connect with us. It's where you can leave a hope note. You can leave your comments. You can read more about our mission. You can read more about why we do what we do and why we believe what we believe. You can also hear testimonies, stories, and comments from people just like you who are watching this and having their lives effectively changed. So I do invite you to please Like, subscribe, follow the pages, and check out hlav.org. It's your source. It's got study guides for these episodes. It also has, like I said, a great way to connect into a community of people who are trying to change the world by doing small acts of kindness that do good everywhere, always, because good comes back. And we appreciate you joining us in this movement to make hope viral. And if no one's told you lately, you're loved, you're cherished, and you matter. Now go change the world, because I believe in you.
As we stand here amidst your presence, too awestruck, Lord, to express how we feel.